Colin, appreciate that. Well, in a couple of weeks, Mississippi voters are going to be heading back to the polls again to vote in the congressional runoffs. Now, in our area, incumbent Michael Guest will face off against challenger Michael Cassidy.
Now, joining us now is Associate Professor of Government and Politics at Millsaps College, Dr. Nathan Schrader, with a look at how this could affect the midterms later in November. Dr. Schrader, as always, thank you for joining us.
Oh, always glad to be with you.
Were you surprised that challenger Michael Cassidy was able to get more votes than incumbent Michael Guest in this Republican congressional primary?
I really was, and here's part of the reason for that. Over the last couple of general elections, the usual congressional incumbent re-election rate is well over 90%. So the betting odds are always in favor of the incumbent, right? And so it takes an awful lot of work behind the scenes, an awful lot of building of a campaign organization, and the careful structuring of a campaign message for a challenger to come across so strong in the first round of voting like Mr. Cassidy did. So that's why it was unexpected, but I think it truly is something that's rare in politics, which is what makes it so impressive from an organizational standpoint.
Does former President Trump still maintain a large influence over the Republican Party?
Oh, without a doubt, Walt. This is Donald Trump's party. And any of the Republicans who say otherwise, it's their party and they can cry if they want to, but it's Donald Trump is the leader of it. Donald Trump, just still 60% of Republicans, even given all the baggage that Donald Trump has, still says he's their top preference to be the nominee for president, and I believe that. His influence, even though in some primaries his candidates have not succeeded, his influence has always been more about himself, right? And his brand is the strongest when he's talking about the Donald Trump brand in the flesh. And I don't think in the Republican Party anything can possibly stop that or weaken that.
Do you think, well, we got the January 6th hearings. Let's talk about that. Will that be a major factor for the midterms?
Well, I think that there's two separate questions. One is, should it be a factor? And the other is, will it be a factor? I think, just looking at it as a social scientist, it's a response to a major event in American history, an attempted, insurrection against the U.S. government. It ought to be an issue, but I just don't believe that it will be in the end because there are so many other pressing issues: inflation, food and gas prices, supply chain issues, the cost of health care. You have all these things mounting, right? And I just think those are going to overshadow that because those are still the issues that people confront on a daily basis in their lives.
Now, Schrader, with all that you just mentioned, everything that's going on, do you expect the Democrats to lose their majority in Congress this autumn?
Most certainly in the House. And let me tell you, I was just looking at some research over the weekend, going back several presidencies, going back 3 or 4 decades. The sitting president's party tends to lose an average, from what I've read, of about 23 seats in the House during their first midterm year. So that alone, the historical trend alone there, puts the Democrats at a really bad disadvantage in the House. Now, I think the Senate, if it were to happen today, I think the Republicans would win the Senate. But the Democrats, I think, have a stronger crop of candidates running in the Senate. And in U.S. Senate elections, candidate quality matters a lot. There are some states where Republicans seem to have shakier statewide candidates than they do at the House of Representatives level.
Great. A lot to think about, and it's a long time to fall, but then again, it's not that far away either in another respect. So thank you, Nathan Schrader, for joining us and giving us a little insight on the elections.
Great insight, yeah. Thank you.